Hello everybody, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about the branch combinations and their strengths. So certain types of combinations will be stronger than others. And so this is an important thing to know, of course. And I haven't covered this yet in the other videos where I did talk about these combinations. But the strongest combination is something called the directional combination. It is sometimes called the seasonal combination because the months that are involved in the directional combination are the same months that are involved in a season. So whichever one makes you easier to remember, use that one. Call it that in your head at least. But the name really seems to be directional combination. Although I have seen seasonal directional combination, which is a little ridiculous. Now, the second strongest is something called the three harmony combination. And here there are three branches, that is animal signs, that all share the same element. The same thing is true here, but it's a different set. And it also pairs up differently. And these two have three animal signs or three branches that have to be in your natal chart. Does not have to be side by side, but they have to be all in your natal chart if it's going to be permanent. And they have three branches, and you have to have all three. And but if you have two, even for this guy, you can get a directional combination when a certain year or a certain luck pillar comes along. And that can give you a directional combination. And of course, it's much stronger if it's your luck pillar because it's 10 years long. Now, just because you have the combination doesn't mean it's good or bad. I mean, most people say, oh, a combination is good. It depends. It depends on your chart. It depends a lot on your day master. So you can't say that as a rule. Now, this third strongest is half of a three harmony combination. And that is two of the three branches that are involved here. But you have to have the cardinal branch as one of the branches. So the cardinal is, rabbit in the east, horse in the south, rooster in the west, and rat in the north. The rabbit, the horse, the rooster, and the rat are the cardinal branches. Now the weakest of these is the three harmony combination. These, if you're going to have a combination, and this one is only between two, you have to have adjacent pillars. And if they're not adjacent, they don't combine. Here, you don't have to worry about adjacency because you are waiting, because this is, even though this is only 2/3 of it, they call it a half, but this does have some energy, even if it's not a full three harmony. And of course, when the right month or luck pillar comes along, you can create a full harmony. So it does become stronger then. Now, even though the six harmony combination is weakest of these here, it has a possibility of transforming your day master, or it can transform other pillars too, but your day master is the important one. And so this is still very, very important. And now transformation of your day master is rare. Very, very likely there's not a single person listening to this video, even over a full year, that has a transformational chart, unless they found it out and they want to find more. But just in general, this is really quite rare. Now, there is another group of combinations called arch combinations, and there are also some underground ones too. But the arch combination, there are three types. I will have a video about this. It is a little vague exactly how important that is, but I think it's probably about the same as half a three harmony combo. It appears to be, when I look at how the chart seems to be, it seems to increase a strength that is there through a combination, the arch combination, that seems higher than it should be otherwise. And so I do think that it's relatively strong and probably stronger than the three harmony or the six harmony combination. Now, when these combinations occur in a natal chart, of course, this will affect the person's personality, their skills, their talents, everything. It changes the person. Now, when these combinations occur in a luck pillar or a year pillar, this means usually means there are some certain skills you should acquire, or maybe you're going to learn something that's important that will help you later in life. Now, this can be a challenging luck pillar or year. But if you meet the challenges, you get better. And then next time that same thing rolls around, especially the year, it's not a big deal. Now, the skill that you will be compelled because of the situation to learn could be enjoyable, but it might not be. It's iffy. But what it will be is it will be useful. This is the key. Once you learn this, you will find that you use it. You may even hate it, but you find it useful enough that you keep using it, and it makes your life better in the long run. And this is what this is talking about. Now, most people will have at least one of these combinations during a certain period of time. In the natal chart, I would say less than half the people do, but that's just a rough estimate. Both my husband and myself don't have a permanent one. Well, okay, maybe I do, but it's in line with what I already am, so I may not feel it. But anyway, this kind of combination that occurs temporarily could mean you have a certain lesson you need to learn so that you don't make the same mistake again. And that is actually very, very important, because if you keep making the same mistake again and again, it gets extraordinarily frustrating. But if you really learn the lesson, you don't make the mistake again. And I would say that for me, well, I would say I've learned it during class years, certain lessons that were pretty profound, and I've not made the mistake again. So I really did learn something. And I don't know, I haven't really bothered to look if this happened to occur during a certain year or during a certain luck pillar. I don't have time to look at all that. Now, I did get some information from the class, but it wasn't anything new. And also, this is where I started to really question some stuff because it was different than what I'd already learned and read. But a lot of the stuff I'm talking about here was better explained by Edgar Lockton-Jung, who has a YouTube channel. And also, when it comes to transformations, I'm really following the book by Lily Chung and Dr. Jin Pei. So this book had the rules that made the most sense to me. Were quite consistent, and they're not 100% consistent, but they're a lot more reasonable and consistent than I've seen in other places. So, and I'm not 100% sure what the Chinese Metasoft site uses for rules, but it seems to be following this book. Now, when these combinations occur, they create an element. That's why we care about combinations. What this element means to you, that is, which of the 10 gods it is determined by your daymaster, just like every other element in your chart. And your daymaster strength will determine if that created element is favorable or unfavorable to you. So this part is very simple. And actually knowing whether or not an element is created is relatively simple too. But how favorable or unfavorable it will be, that's where a little bit of intuition has to come into play, because you need to know exactly what it has changed in terms of your elemental ability or your elemental mix. Now, there are some exceptions to this rule here. If you are a Ding Fire Daymaster, you need wood. You need something to burn. And it doesn't really matter if it's yin wood or yang wood. Yang wood might be a little better, but it needs something to burn. And a wood Daymaster, either yin or yang, needs water because otherwise it dies. And so in both of these cases, the water for the wood and the wood for the fire, these are the resource elements. And it depends on what your otherwise natal level of resources is. But if it pushes it into an unhealthy high category, it can be a problem. And when you have too many resources, you tend to be a person who does a lot of thinking and very little doing. And that is pretty negative because you never take advantage of all the stuff you've learned. And it's kind of a waste of brain cells if you're not going to actually do something with the information. So that's the danger if the resources are too high. Now, if this happens to be a strong Daymaster on either one of these, the resource is an unfavorable element. But here, it's still okay to have as long as it doesn't push you into the unhealthy high level of resources. Now, another example is the gung metal. It needs Ding Fire. It needs the heat and the flame to be able to transform it into something useful. Otherwise, gung metal is basically a chunk of metal that, well, I guess you could just use it like a hammer, but that's about it, to knock something around. But to like create an axe, you need to shape that with fire. So this means that basically a gung metal Daymaster needs passion to hone it into something useful. Now, the Ding Fire is the controlling element of metal. And actually, it doesn't matter if it's Ding or Bing, but this will control the metal. But again, we need to look on whether or not this is how high this is. If this Ding Fire pushes it into an unhealthy high level of influence, and influence is either 7K or DO, you would perhaps become a dictator or a bully. You're very, very stubborn, and you just bowl everybody over, and people learn not to argue with you, and they tend to ignore you, though. They tend to avoid you because they just don't want to deal with you. That's the danger. If the Ding Fire is too high for a gung metal. Now, normally, influence is an unfavorable element for a weak Daymaster, but still you need some fire, so it's not so bad here. It's okay, as long as it doesn't go into unhealthy high levels. And now, of course, the opposite is true. This resource is a great thing for a weak Daymaster, for the Ding Fire and the Wood Daymasters. And if you are a strong gung metal, then the Ding Fire is favorable. So, this is how it flip-flops. And this isn't, most people know how this goes. But I will get into detail when I get to the actual videos on the individual combinations. Now, if you remember, the 6 harmony combination might transform heaven stems, and including the Daymaster. And that's mostly, I would say, 90+% of the practitioners out there only care if the Daymaster is transformed. A transformed Daymaster usually makes a person have a very different personality. Now, there are a couple exceptions because of sometimes, a gung metal is sometimes, well, for a branch combination, it's a little more complicated, but it could just change it from a yin to a yang type thing, which isn't terribly different. It is different though. But there are times that it may stay a gung metal in the transformation. And of course, then you can't see it because it's the same thing. It'll make more sense when I get there. Now, I would say this: if you feel that your daymaster doesn't fit you, it just seems really wrong, because they talk about what does this daymaster, what are they like? This might be happening to you. You may have a transformation in your chart, and you may be transferring or transforming your daymaster into a different daymaster, and that other one might fit you better. So if this is you, if you really feel like the daymaster is just not you, then it's really worth looking into this. Now, the BaZiCalculator.com website, after you have subscribed, will actually allow you to see the effects of transformations, if they exist. And so this is a really good place. Now, I don't know if they have temporary, like 1 week free, or if they have monthly things, or if it's only yearly. It's fairly expensive yearly, and I don't have a subscription because I have subscriptions to other things. So this, my business can't afford yet another subscription. Now, the Chinese Metasoft site, and you might be able to get this through their temporary thing, but when I signed up, they still had an option where you could just sign up for a month, and that will give you enough time to look at everybody's chart that you care about anyway, and this and then you can just cancel the subscription. Just remember that you do that, so that you don't keep paying, because a month, doing a year over a whole month is more expensive than doing the whole year. So, but anyway, it will tell you if you have a transformational chart or a follower chart. And I'm going to talk about the follower charts later. They are a special class. And this one seems to be following the book rules. Although it's really hard to find charts. You have to, it took a couple weeks to find transformational charts because they are really quite rare. Now, you will see this information on the right-hand side of the page. If you scroll down right below the pie chart, that will start talking about things. It's somewhere, in that vicinity, below that pie chart. And if you see the word, I think they call it structure, but if you see the word standard, you don't have a transformational or follower chart. And most people will see the word standard. Now, the follower charts typically have quite a weak daymaster, and they're dominated by one element, and not necessarily a useful element or a favorable element for them, but their chart is so overwhelming something, they just have to follow that and ignore what the implications to their daymaster. And this can be a very good chart. There are quite a few famous people that actually have follower charts. So don't be worried about this if it actually says that. Now, for the 6-harmony combination, whether a combination can transform a daymaster, unfortunately, appears to vary sometime considerably from school to school. And this bugs me a lot. I mean, it actually drives me a little crazy. And I've been spending quite a bit of time just trying to figure this all out, and why certain schools say this, why certain schools say that, which one makes the most sense. And after doing all that, I've settled on the book, which when we get to the appropriate area, when we talk about the 6-harmony, I tell you all about the book. But and this does drive me really quite crazy. And of course, I think the problem is that transformational charts are so rare that, I mean, there are of course tons of people out there with it, like tens of thousands of people, but if they don't come in for a consultation and they're not famous, you aren't going to know they have a transformation chart. So it's really hard to study this, because when you look at the full year, there's not, I mean, it can be down to the hour on who has one of these charts or who doesn't. Now, there are some of the schools are fairly loose in their requirements, which don't seem to follow the traditional, the ancient text, which I've read a little bit of, translated, of course, and some are quite strict. The I am the book is not super strict, but it is a lot stricter than many of these. So it's and the thing is what the rules are makes sense for the most part. I do have a question about one of the rules, and I will talk about that when I get to that video. Uh, and and we'll see, you can believe any way you want, honestly, because I don't know who's right. Now, but for when I talk about the transformation, I'm going to use the rules in the book, the one by Lily Chung and Jin Pei. Now, if you are going to learn BaZi, especially if you want to become a consultant, it's best to stick with one school. Now, I really doubt that any one school is 100% correct, but a lot of that reason is because your BaZi is only 1/3 of your life. It's not you. Um, and I can't tell you which school is the best because I've never had a BaZi consultation, and I very, very much doubt I ever will. But anyone who has a transformational chart, and you can see whether or not from the Chinese Metasoft site, and maybe even a follower chart, I think it's worth the price of a consultation, maybe even a couple consultations with different schools to understand the implications of your chart because you have an unusual chart. And it's very hard for a layperson to truly understand what this means. And of course, one reason I've never been terribly interested in BaZi is because uh, when I look around at these different rules, and you see that even with the Chinese Metasoft site, it gives you two different interpretations of your elemental balance. Um, who's right? I have no idea. I really don't. And for some people, it can make a big difference. For others, it's not much different. And so, it's just really, really hard to say. And unless you really know the rules of how they create their elemental system, it's very hard to understand why this is all different. Now, when I look at feng shui, there is basically two schools. There's the San He and the San Yuan. Now, the San He system only cares what goes on outside and whether or not that energy goes into your house through your main door. It doesn't care anything about what goes on inside your house. The San Yuan system does it just says, okay, whatever energy comes into the house, what happens inside the house? That's mostly what it does. And the rules there are a lot more consistent. The only one that I see a real difference of is the house 8 mansions. And it's with the east and west facing or east and west sitting houses. Some of them stick the west sitting house in the group with the north house, and the other one will stick it with a group with the west house, or I should say maybe southwest house. So there's a disagreement about east and west facing houses, which kind of chart they should have. And so that makes me think, after all this time, that either this isn't very important, and I think that's more like the case, that is, the house 8 mansions is not very important. The personal 8 mansions is, for you as an individual, that's important. But the house doesn't really seem to make that much difference. It's one of the easiest ones to do, but it doesn't have consistent rules. So I don't use that. And it's because there's enough else out there that I don't need to use the house 8 mansions. And unfortunately for BaZi, if you have a transformational chart, you're going to have to use somebody's rules. I don't know which rules are the best. Now, these different schools, they look at the requirements for the combination that will create a transformation. These sets of rules vary a lot, and this is the one that's driving me absolutely crazy. But I've read a lot of different stuff, and 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 from translations of ancient text to like 2 or 3 different examples of different schools. And I've just picked the one that I think is the most consistent. And that's in the book that I talked about. Now, I think part of the issue with this and why there's so many different schools and so many different ways of looking at is because your life is really only 1/3 influenced by your BaZi. It can easily predict at least some of the aspects of your personality. Maybe the base it may get right, but when it comes to other details, I think it could easily be wrong because your environment and the choices you make are equally important as your BaZi. So, and I've already seen things that the BaZi says that are completely wrong for me. And that is basically about money. My BaZi says I should have an easy time earning money and cannot save. The opposite is true. Honest to God, the total opposite. I've never earned a lot of money, but I save very, very well. Now, I think that comes from my upbringing. Both my parents lived through the Great Depression of the 1930s, and they were very, very conservative about spending money. And they were smart. I mean, they were able to get me through college without me having to take a loan. In fact, they wouldn't even let me apply for a loan or a grant. They said, no, we just pay for you, the school. Of course, I was very conservative with the money because I didn't want to waste their money because they were retired. I felt really bad about taking it, but I can't get a grant or a loan without them signing the papers. So I was stuck because they refused to sign the papers because I was ready to apply, but they wouldn't let me. Now, the next set of videos will cover the details of each of these combinations with the branch interactions. And it's going to start with the strongest, go to the weakest, and the last one will be the 6 harmony simply because it's the hardest. Now, it might be a little while before I can really do this well because I really want to do a little more checking before I even start writing this one because this one is really, really, really hard. So that's it. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you've got any questions or comments, you can either email me here or leave a comment. And I know there's probably not going to be too many questions about this because you'll have the questions when I get to the detailed stuff. So I will start recording that pretty soon, and the next one in the series. And then I'm sure I'll have some questions. Thanks again for watching.